Dear children of ninth standard, welcome to the second class of English. Today you are going to learn a poem, The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Before I read out the poem for you, I would like to talk about the poet Robert Frost. Robert Frost was an American poet who was born on 1874 and he wrote very plain using very simple words, yet he brings out very strong messages. And he wrote simply and insightfully about common ordinary experiences. In this poem, he is we are going to learn about making choices and the choices that shape us. Let me read out the poem for you. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller, long I stood and looked down as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Here, children, in this poem, the poet talks about the two roads which symbolize our life. The poet says that the path that we don't choose in our life is the road not taken. And he describes his feeling about that choice that he had left in the past. So the path which we have chosen decides our future, our destination. The important message that the poet wants to give us is that the choice that we make has an impact on our future. If we make a wrong choice, we regret it but cannot go back on it. So we must be really wise while making choices. Children, I would like to explain the poem stanza wise. The first stanza goes, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller, long I stood and looked down as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Here there are some words which you might not understand, like diverged. The word diverged means it took a different direction. There are two roads and it took a different direction. And where is the two road? The two road is in a yellow wood. What does yellow wood means here? Yellow wood is a forest with leaves, as you can see in the picture. It is a forest with leaves which are wearing out and they have turned yellow in color. Most probably it is the season of autumn. So the poet kept standing there and looked at the path very carefully as he could see it. Before taking the path, he wanted to know how it was. Was it suitable for him or not? He was able to see the path till from where it curved after it was covered with trees and was hidden. It happened in our life also when we have choices. We may have two things to choose in front of us, but we have to choose only one out of them. We take time to think about the pros and the cons, whether it is suitable for us or not, and only then we take a decision on what path we should choose. So that is what the first stanza meant. And now let's go to the second stanza. Here in the second stanza, the poet wrote, then took the other just as fair. He said, just as fair. The one just, the word, the phrase just as fair may refer to as good as the other one. So the poet took the road. Now he started walking on the road, which he think that it is just equal to the other one. And he kept Now, the poet kept on looking on one path for a long time to check if it is the right path for him or not. And then he started walking on another path because he felt that both the paths were equally good. He says just as fair, so he felt that both the paths are equally good and he started walking on one of them. He adds that maybe he felt that the path was better for him, so he chooses it as it had grass on it, which means it was unused. The poet says it was grassy and wanted wear. That means it was unused. Not many people had walked on this path earlier. That is why this path was grassy. And wanted wear means that it was not walked over by many people. After he walked on the path for some distance, he realized that both the path had been worn out the same way. Both the paths were similar and worn out. Even in our life, we take any path or any option, and all of them have the same benefits, same disadvantages, and problems and challenges, and we must face them. We think that we are choosing a better option, but it is not always like that. It is not that way. Now let's go to the third stanza. In the third stanza, the poet said, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Now the poet says that both the paths were similar that morning, but had leaves on them and no one had stepped on them as they were still green in color. He decided that that day he would take one path and keep the other path for another day. Although he knew that one way leads on to another way, he knew that he could not go back on the choice that he had made. Similarly, even in our life, once we choose an option, we must keep on moving ahead with that option, and we never get a chance to come back and take the other option that we had left earlier. Now let's go to the next stanza. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Now here the poet says that in future he will take a sigh. A sigh means a deep breath. He will take a sigh and say that once upon a time he had reached such a point in life that there were two options before him, and he traveled on that road which had been traveled upon by lesser number of people. That decision of his decided his future. Similarly, in future, when you grow up, then you will say that once upon a time when you were young, you had two options. The choice that you made you what you became of it. This is a very strong message for all the students that you should be wise and be careful while making choices out of options that you have in your life, because your future depends on the choice that you make. Now children, let's look at some of the poetic devices the poet used here. The poet used symbolism The two roads symbolized our choices of life, and the poet used alliteration. And here, alliteration means the repetition of one consonant sound in a single line. Wanted, where was used in the second stanza. First, for was used, though, that was used. The word were was repeated. The word was repeated. The word the was repeated. So here the poet used alliteration. And the poet also used repetition. Ages is repeated. The word ages is repeated. And the phrase two roads diverged in a wood being repeated in the first stanza and the last stanza. So here, these are the poetic devices the poet used. So children, you might have learned so many things from this poem today, and there are some questions that I would like to ask. Before that, there are some determining factors that you can ponder upon, like what kind of choices that you have. Like sometime your parents put pressure on you about something, and there are some friends who is pressurizing you, and there are some interests that you really want to take up, and there are some hindrances that are coming up. So it's your choice that is going to determine. There are so many other choices also. So this is the main theme of this poem here. Now let's go to the question. What was the poet's opinion about the roads? What was the poet's opinion about the roads? The next question is, what do the roads represent? The third question is, why did the poet choose the road? Now let's go to the first question. What was the poet's opinion about the roads? According to the poet, in the first stanza, as you can see, the road seems to be just the same. And it was more or less the same, but one road was grassy and it was wanted where? And what do the roads represent? The road represent our choices of life. Why did the poet choose the road? The poet chose the road that he took because it was grassy, and to him it appears that less people have been there before, so he chose the road. Thank you so much, children. See you tomorrow, same time.